Three spine-chilling caving encounters that revealed sinister secrets and unexplained horrors. The moon hung high, a ghostly orb casting an eerie glow over the old Maplewood quarry. This was no ordinary night for Jane, a single mother and diligent security guard. Chilled winds whispered through the craggy rocks, carrying the faint echoes of lost souls. As she patrolled the desolate grounds, every shadow felt like a living entity, lurking, watching. Graffiti sprawled across the crumbling walls, sinister images of skulls and twisted faces warning of danger. Jane's skin prickled, but she brushed it off, the exhaustion of her shift mixing with the chilling urban legends that haunted this place. With every step, her heart raced. Just the darkness playing tricks, she muttered to herself, forcing a laugh. Yet, those dark shapes slinked in her periphery, tempting her curiosity. This was a quiet suburb, but the quarry held secrets that should never be unearthed. Hours passed with no incident until just past midnight, the air thick with unease. Closer to dawn, a chilling legend replayed in her mind. Folks vanishing without a trace, swallowed whole by the earth. The unease turned electric when she received a frantic call. Billy, her teenage son, had gone missing during a game of hide and seek. The quarry. Panic gripped her throat like a vice. Had her boy dared to explore this cursed place with his friends? Adrenaline surged as she imagined the worst. She raced to the quarry, her breath coming in sharp bursts. The darkness felt alive around her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each echo of her frantic calls for Billy answered only by the haunting silence of the quarry. A sense of foreboding grew as she stepped closer to the cave entrance. Black, gaping maw beckoning her. Dark shadows twitched, and she felt eyes bore into her back. Jane swallowed, stepping over shattered rocks, the dampness creeping up her ankles. Fear clawed at her chest. What if the stories were true? Children lost to the sinister spirit rumored to haunt these depths. Their laughter turned to screams. The further she ventured, the more twisted her thoughts became. Was Billy one of the chosen? In the suffocating dark, she found pluck and dread mingling like oil and water. Murals of sorrow splattered across the cave walls gave life to the tomes of tragedy. Names, once vibrant, scratched out, memories shelved among rocks. As reality settled like a weight upon her shoulders, the chilling story unfolded, a refuge for the forsaken, their suffering painting the very walls. Panic swelled as she recalled the whispers of betrayal, shadows that could lay claim to even the purest of hearts. A shudder rippled through her, each footstep echoing with the mockery of whatever awaited her. Get a grip, Jane. He needs you, she urged, pushing deeper into the unknown. Just then, that voice reverberated through the dank space. You're too late. Her heart skidded to a halt. She froze, caught between that haunting past and desperate maternal instinct. Could it be that the quarry's blood-soaked legacy had claimed her child? Or was there something more heinous at play? As darkness clawed around her, Jane stood at the threshold of a sinister legacy, her very survival hinging on the choices she would now have to make. The voice echoed again, chilling her to the core. You're too late. Those words hung heavy in the air, more a curse than a warning. They made her skin crawl and her heart pound like a drum. Fear coiled tighter around her, squeezing out any faint hope she clung to for her son. Billy, she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. Silence enveloped her, thick and suffocating. The darkness pressed in, stifling her cries. Something stirred in the depths. Was it the wind or something more sinister, ready to feast upon her fears? Step by cautious step, she ventured deeper into the cave, where the walls closed in, slick with an unsettling moisture. Shadows danced just out of sight, whispers tantalizingly close yet devoid of words. A flicker caught her attention, a glint of light reflecting off something in the dark. Her breath quickened as she approached. It was a scrap of metal, rusted but unmistakable. A child's bracelet, engraved with the name Elliot. One more lost boy, one more name scratched from existence. Her instincts screamed as a surge of instinct propelled her back. This isn't real. Panic threatened to drown her thoughts. But a strange clarity washed over her as the images of others who had come before flickered in her mind. A rising dread told her that she wasn't just searching for her son, but for every soul that had fallen victim to the quarry. "Where are you, Billy?" Each word felt hollow, echoing against the grim rock that surrounded her. Those walls, that suffocating space, seemed to respond, alive and breathing as if they were just waiting for the right moment to drag her deeper into their serpent-like grip. "Mom." The sound was faint, almost lost to the air. Jane's heart danced, but another voice, cold and taunting, replied, "He is mine now." The chilling certainty in that voice sent spikes of ice through her veins. "Billy," she shouted again, pushing herself harder against that suffocating darkness. A flicker of motion caught her eye, a shadow moving behind a boulder not far ahead. She sprinted toward it. "Billy, I'm coming." As Jane rounded the corner, her heart sank. There, just beyond reach, was a series of twisted figures, their faces obscured and contorted in agony. Were they the spirits of the lost? Had they come for her, to drag her into the depths of despair? She stumbled back, terror flooding her senses, recognizing the grotesque remnants of the quarry's cursed history. "Join us," their whispers slithered through the air, wrapping around her like fog. Their eyes glimmered with unspeakable sorrow. She couldn't breathe. She wouldn't let herself join them. "No," she screamed, making a desperate break for the opening of the cave. But as she ran, the shadows shifted, closing in. They weren't just reminders of torment. They were hungry. "You're one of us now," one roared, reaching out. Their grasp felt cold and unyielding. In a flash of memory surged glimpses of a life not yet led, a son yet not lost. In that fleeting moment, Jane knew she had a choice: fight or succumb to the shadows clawing at her heels. Her breath came in tight gasps, fierce determination mingling with despair. She lunged back towards the darkness, a fierce resolve igniting within her. She would not let the quarry claim her son. The cavern quaked, as if the very earth was growing restless, folding in around her. "I will find you, Billy." She charged forward into the chaos, each step shaking the ground beneath her. Just as she crossed the threshold of the mouth of the cave, a figure emerged from the depths. Her breath caught. "Billy?" But it was no child. Glistening eyes peered back at her, filled with an insatiable hunger, a chilling grin lining its grotesque face. "You shouldn't have come." The shadows surged forward, eager to claim their prize. In that moment, Jane's heart thundered ferociously, suspended between fear and hope. Would she save her son, or become another lost name among the quarry's twisted stories? And as the figure advanced, she screamed. Time froze. What awaited her in the darkness? Only the echo of her own voice answered. Jane's scream shattered the heavy silence, reverberating against the cave's walls. It peeled back layers of fear, exposing the raw panic gnawing at her sanity. She blinked against the darkness, trying to focus on the shape looming before her. It twisted and shimmered like smoke, pulsating with ominous life. "Run!" A voice in the distance called, but it was swallowed by the cave's oppressive atmosphere. Jane didn't want to turn her back on that thing, not now, not ever. Its eyes, those unbearable orbs of malice, locked onto hers, seemingly reaching into her soul and rooting around in her most intimate fears. "Please, just let him go," she pleaded, desperation clawing at the edge of her voice. The figure laughed, a low, spine-tingling sound that echoed back mockingly. "Oh, Jane, he's already gone." She felt each word sink into her chest like knives, twisting and turning inside her. Could it be true? Was her boy really lost to her forever? The reality threatened to crush her. The creature lunged, and Jane instinctively dodged to the side, heart pounding as adrenaline surged through her. She ran, wild and frantic, deeper into the cave. Her feet splashed into something slick, and she stumbled, slipping against the uneven ground. The air thickened around her, constricting, and for a moment, she feared she would be swallowed whole. The walls seemed to pulse, shifting like they were alive. Shadows whispered, taunting her. "Join us," they beckoned her forward, where the ground vanished into an unsettling abyss. No, she would not fall. Not now. A flicker of hope surged. Billy needed her. Clenching her fists, she pressed on, racing forward until she reached a broader section of the cave. She paused, panting heavily, searching for any sign of him. Billy. Her voice trembled, filled with unresolved dread. For a moment, silence answered. Then she heard it, a soft whimpering echoing from a passageway to her right. Hope ignited within her, and she dashed toward the sound. I'm coming. But as she drew closer, the sound morphed. It twisted, taking on a cruel tone that turned her stomach. Help me. Please, it wailed, but the voice faltered, losing its childlike innocence. It was a ploy, a snare to draw her in. No, you're not real, she yelled, grinding her teeth as she tried to block it out. But the persisting echo surrounded her. She stumbled back, her breath sharp and quickening, fighting against the darkness that wanted to consume her. Why do you resist, Jane? Every shadow in the cavern seemed to whisper her name, merging into one cacophony of torment. You've already given up what matters most. She pressed her palms against her ears, squeezing her eyes shut. Thoughts raced. Were these the lost? Were they reaching out for her? Or were they just more of the quarry's cruel illusions? Suddenly, the walls of the cave began to shake violently, stones cascading down like rain. Panic surged, and Jane barely kept her footing, the ground shifting beneath her. A low growl rumbled in the distance, familiar and terrifying. Was it coming for her? Desperate for escape, she turned once more, eyes scanning for a way out. The way she'd come, the exit was now obscured, swirling in a phantom mist. The shadows were closing in, pressing against her, sharp breaths ghosting past her skin. No, she screamed, throwing herself into an unseen opening. She didn't know where it led, but hope overrode her fear. Each step echoed wildly, the shadows clawing at her heels. She felt their chilling touch, like ice on her spine. Was there any sanctuary in this nightmare, or was she destined to follow Elliot and countless others into the void? Then out of the mist, a figure appeared. Mom. Could it be? Billy. Hope surged again, but something wasn't right. He looked different, standing amidst the shadows. Eyes wide, a smile that felt too stretched, too wrong. Come to me, he beckoned softly, voice laced with an undeniable allure and danger. Torn between love and fear, Jane hesitated. What truth lay behind that smile? As she stepped forward, doubt gripped her. What if it was a trap? What if she was truly too late? Billy's outstretched hand trembled, a distorted promise in the dim light. Jane's instincts screamed at her to run. This couldn't be her son, this was just another trick. Yet, every fiber of her being ached to believe him, to trust that his voice would guide her out of the dark. Come on, Mom. It's so nice here. You don't have to be scared. His voice rang with a jarring sweetness, a sweetened tone that twisted her stomach tighter than the shadows around her. She took a cautious step back, her heart racing. Where's the real Billy? She shot back, her throat dry. What have you done with him? The thing wearing Billy's face laughed, the sound twisting up into the shadows. It was a sound devoid of warmth, more a dark hymn of the cave than a child's laughter. He.S. right here, it crooned, and in that moment, shadows morphed, coiling around the figure until Jane could see them more clearly. The contours of Billy's form flickered like an old film reel, the light struggling to capture the reality of her son's features. Her breath hitched as tendrils of black began extending from the base of the figure, reaching out like skeletal fingers, grasping for her with insatiable hunger. No, she yelled, an instinct kicked in. She turned and sprinted back into the maze of the cave, the echo of her pulse roaring in her ears. Each step sent jolts of terror through her, the entity's laughter peeling away at her sanity as it followed closely, a dark shadow slithering through the stone. The passageways became tighter, constricting around her like a snake. She stumbled past jagged rocks and slick patches, always glancing back, half expecting to see the creature behind her, its burnt smile and glowing eyes. The fear of the unknown gnawed at her, clawing at her insides. Then she saw it, a light, soft and beckoning. Hope surged again. She raced towards it, heart hammering against her ribs. But as the light drew closer, it morphed, changing into a menacing glow, like a lantern guiding lost souls to their doom. Jane, the voice was that of her husband, Elliot, twisted and sorrowful. You need to stop. Come back. Her heart sank. Elliot. The name hung painfully in the air. She faltered, the confusion slicing through her desperation. "Help me move on," he pleaded from behind the light, and for a brief heartbeat, she felt the overwhelming urge to rush towards him. But then the shadows began to swell, morphing into indistinct figures around him, lost souls reaching out for her. There was something insidious in that glow, something that didn't belong in this world. "No, you're not real," she screamed, refusing to let the sorrow take her. In turning away from the light, she felt a rush of anger surge through her, mingled with fear. Suddenly, a roar echoed through the cave, a feral sound of some beast lurking within, and the walls started to quake under the weight of ancient terror. She didn't know if the sound came from Elliot or the creature, but it didn't matter. The ground bucked beneath her as she took off again, the passage narrowing, turning into a corridor. She pressed on, breath hitching, and then stumbled into another opening before her. The chamber was vast, eerily empty. An altar rose in the center, shadows slinking around its periphery. She could feel coldness creeping along her skin, as if the darkness itself was alive, pulling her backwards, urging her to surrender. "Mom," a voice echoed from the shadows, and dread flooded back in. "Help me," she stood paralyzed, heart racing, faced with the tension of the unknown. Was that truly Billy? And then she heard the growl again, more pronounced, closer now. She wasn't alone, and the dark weighed heavy with malevolence. With rising defiance and despair, Jane stepped forward, gripping the edges of the altar. Was it a portal, or something far worse? As her fingers brushed the surface, the world around her trembled. Dread wrapped around her as she prepared to confront the horror, whatever it was that waited behind the shadows. But suddenly, the shadows parted, and from the depths of darkness emerged a figure, a creature not of this world, with eyes like burning coals. "Welcome, Jane." And as it advanced toward her, the terrible truth loomed ever closer. She must choose between the twisted calls of her son, the spectral figure of her husband, and the emerging evil reignited. What lay ahead in the abyss? Was there any hope left, or was she simply the next sacrifice? The creature loomed closer, its form swirling with shadows, almost formless yet suffused with an unearthly presence. Jane's stomach knotted at the sight. It was as if reality itself thinned, exposing the raw nerves of fear and despair beneath. The air turned frigid, and she shivered as if the darkness could bite. "Choose," it rasped, the word emerging like smoke, thick and bitter. "Your son or your husband. Their fates rest in your hands." Her breath caught. The weight of the decision crashed down around her, a heavy shroud made of grief and confusion. The voices from the shadows echoed, warping and twisting like the darkness itself. "Mom, please. I need you." Billy's plea warped through her psyche, pulling at the threads of her heart. "Elliot, I don't understand," Jane shouted, desperate tears blurring her vision. "Why are you? Why is everyone here?" A flicker of sympathy crossed the creature's face, though it was hard to decipher against its shadowy visage. "Not everyone knows the truth, Jane. The truth about this place, and you." In an instant, time stretched. The memories of her life flickered through her mind, the warmth of her son's laugh, the touch of her husband's hand, the sunlight dancing through the trees. A life worth saving. But all was tinted now with loss, with betrayal. "You have ignored the whispers," the creature continued, its voice like ice. "Look at what you ignored, Jane." It waved a hand, and the shadows flared, revealing scenes she dreadfully knew, moments when she chose comfort over confrontation, silence over truth. Each fragment paralyzed her, showing her what she refused to see. "No, I didn't choose this," she cried out, clutching the altar as if it might ground her in reality. "Your heart holds their fates, the scales of light and shadow," it replied, its tone maddeningly calm. "Dare you weigh them? To save one is to forsake the other." The weight of her decision burned. A pit opened in her chest. She needed to dispel the darkness, to put an end to this twisted game. But could she sacrifice one love for another? And what of the creature that thrived on her despair? In that moment, as the decision teetered on the precipice of madness, shadows twisted tighter around her, wrapping her in an unyielding embrace. She gasped, feeling the cold grip of the abyss trying to drag her down into its depths. "Run!" The cry slashed through her thoughts, slicing through the thick tension. Not just anyone's voice, but Elliot's. He was the first to speak, Memories flooding her consciousness, running through a park, laughing under the sun, the warmth of shared dreams. Run. Find him. It snapped something inside her. Jane's instincts, her survival instincts, flared to life. She pushed against the altar and bolted past the creature. The shadows surged around her, hungry, but she was fueled by an urgency that sharpened her senses. Billy. The call tore from her throat. Her heart pounded in rhythmic determination, guiding her deeper into the dark, a lighthouse cutting through the despair, the hope of reaching her son, of tearing down the illusion that held her captive. But as she raced, spectral fingers clawed at her, murmurs swirling with currents of agony and desire. They filled her with fear and confusion, each voice pressing into her mind. The walls of the cave echoed back her own doubts, fueling the shadows that trailed her like a malignant beast. Then suddenly, an overwhelming roar drowned out the whispers, shaking the very ground beneath her. She skidded to a halt. The chamber had shifted again, the altar now looming ominously behind her, a wretched monument to her pain. The creature stood tall in the rear, its eyes glowing like molten lava, taking form as the fear fed it. Where will you run, Jane? The choice must be made. Desperation clawed at her throat. She had to find Billy, had to face the truth behind the choice she dreaded. Racing thoughts screamed through her mind. Could she secure both her loved ones? Or would she need to make the ultimate sacrifice? As she plunged into the depths of the shadowed corridor, the growl echoed. Again, closer, more powerful. Each step felt do or die, and she could almost taste the darkness closing in around her. Would the shadows swallow her whole, or could she break free from their grasp? The urge to scream burned in her throat, but then, a flicker of light danced ahead, flickering like a faint prayer. What lay within that beacon? Could it be a way out, or simply another trap waiting in the abyss? The choice grew nearer, and the darkness snarled behind her, hungry for her answer. Jane pressed forward, the flickering light guiding her like a tether to hope. Each step felt weighted, the shadows snatching at her ankles, whispering venomous promises of despair. You can't escape, they taunted, their voices sliding into her mind like oil. The choice will always be yours. But there was a heartbeat within that glow, a pulse of warmth against the bone-chilling cold. She lunged toward it, desperation igniting her movements. The tunnel warped and twisted around her, leading her deeper into the void, the walls slick and damp as though they were alive. Then she stumbled into a cavern, and the light expanded, casting long, jagged shadows that flickered like dying embers. Within the luminous sphere, she saw forms, shifting faces etched in anguish, their mouths moving silently, trapped in a loop of forgotten screams. This wasn't just a light. It was a memory, one she recognized. No, not here. Not again. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she scanned the faces. They were the remnants of those lost to her, the choices she made, the ones she sacrificed on the altar of denial. Each face, a mirror of guilt, but among the lost, one shone with clarity, her son, Billy, his eyes wide with fear, yet still locked onto hers. Mom, help me. His voice cut like glass, piercing the haze surrounding her. She flinched, her heart racing. Billy, where are you? Mom, please. His voice echoed, spiraling in the cave, a haunting plea that wrapped around her, drawing her in. With renewed determination, she turned from the sorrowful faces. I'm coming, sweetheart. I want to leave you. The shadows lunged at her, fury ignited as they saw her defiance. They shrieked, twisting and morphing, forming grotesque figures, faces of those she once loved or lost. You cannot save him, they wailed, pouring forth the very essence of her doubts. She pressed onward, fueled by the love for her son, a flicker of hope blazing across her chest. The light in the cavern shrunk with every step she took, threatened by the encroaching darkness. Time felt warped, seconds stretching into agonizing loops. She could almost hear the beast's growl blending with Billy's cries, a horrific symphony of fear and longing. Suddenly, the walls began to shift, closing in around her, a tightening grip of despair. This is your fate. The creature's voice roared from the depths of the shadows. Do you choose your son or your husband? They cannot coexist. Jane stumbled, clenching her fists. I want to choose one over the other. There must be a way. Panic seared through her veins, drowning her. Choose, Jane. The cavern erupted with laughter, a symphony of mockery that sunk into her bones. In the distance, flickers of movement caught her eye. It was not only Billy, there was Elliot, too, glowing with an ethereal light. Yet both were chained by darkness, shadows wrapping around them, tugging them into imminent oblivion. Mom, I'm so scared. Billy's small voice echoed, pulling her mind apart. Elliot reached for her, desperation radiating from him. Please, Jane, help us. Not if you do not choose. The creature consumed the air like an engulfing flame, its twisted form merging into the shadows that clawed for her. A wave of realization washed over her. She was paralyzed, shackled by a truth she had tried to ignore. The shadows thrived on her doubts, fed on her fear of losing one. The battle was never about choosing. It was about trusting her love enough to break free from the shackles of despair. But how? As the howling darkness converged, slashing through the light, she realized she had to confront her own darker choices, those against which she had stood silently, the trust she betrayed. If she wanted to save them both, she had to face her own demons. In that moment of reckoning, Jane stood resolute. Could she truly unite them against the monster, or would she falter in the darkness? I'm coming for you, she shouted, heart thundering as the air cracked with electricity, shadows swirling violently around her, the cavern trembling with anticipation of her next move. And as she surged forward, ready to obliterate the darkness and reclaim her family, she felt a new pulse in the air, a call. Had she finally found her way, or was it just another trap? The flickering light dimmed, revealing the shadows as they stretched and growled, seemingly alive, waiting for her answer. Jane's heart raced as she took one step after another, the cavern narrowing around her, shadows licking at her heels like hungry flames. Each second felt like an eternity, and the weight of the decision grew heavier. She couldn't think of opting between Elliot and Billy. That was madness. There had to be a way to save them both, and she had to find it quickly. Mom. Billy's voice echoed again, more distant this time. A cry wrapped in fear that cut through the chaos around her. Don't leave me, please. Forcing her feet to move, Jane shielded her body from the grasping shadows. They shrieked, angry, feral, chasing her with an insatiable hunger. She felt like prey, but the love for her son burned bright, a beacon leading her through the consuming dark. With every pulse of that love, the flickering light surged, illuminating the cavern further. The faces trapped in its glow shifted uneasily, twisted by the shadows. They cried out, their pleas mingling with the cacophony of despair clawing at her sanity. You're too late. You can't save him. You will lose them both. Ignoring their taunts, she pressed on, feeling each shadow snarl at her back, gnashing their teeth. She wouldn't let them win. Not today. Suddenly, as if in answer to her determination, the shadows parted slightly, revealing a hidden passageway. A chill washed over her. Something about it felt wrong, yet that flickering glow beckoned her forward. Was it a trap, or a way out? Her intuition screamed danger, but she pushed it back. She had no choice. Billy, Elliot, she shouted, her voice ringing out, defying the darkness that clamored for her surrender. I'm here. I'm coming. As she slipped into the passage, she found herself surrounded by a thick mist that obscured everything beyond a couple of feet. Panic surged in her chest. She could barely breathe. Each inhale came in shallow gasps, frigid air stinging her lungs. The darkness felt alive, thick like molasses, wrapping around her, pressing down, squeezing out hope. The sound broke through the stillness, a low growl echoing from the depths of the mist. Jane froze, her heart pounding like a war drum. The shadows coalesced into shapes in the distance, looming figures that swayed and twisted as though they were alive. Billy? She called again, her voice trembling. The growl deepened, syllables woven into the very fabric of that chilling darkness. Mom. It was Elliot's voice, trailing off into a whisper filled with dread. Mom, it's not safe. They are watching you. Nausea twisted her stomach as she fought the creeping horror creeping back into her mind. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and Jane took a step back, instinct kicking in. She needed to hold on to her strength, refocus. What do I do? She whispered into the suffocating air, desperate for guidance. Then, she remembered the memories binding her to each face in the cavern. They weren't just her past mistakes, they were lessons. Perhaps if she could remember correctly, trust the bond that linked them, she could ignite a force strong enough to face this. She closed her eyes, recalling every moment of unconditional love shared with Billy and Elliot. Focusing on those memories, she found the flicker of warmth within the chill. The mist thinned slightly as a soft glow ignited in her chest. "I'm coming for you," she screamed again, determination filling her being. She flung her arms wide, feeling that warmth swell, and screamed into the suffocating darkness. "I choose them both. I will fight." The shadows screeched, digging deeper into her psyche, but that glow surged brighter, pushing back against the darkness. The passage shook, reverberating with the intensity of her conviction, but the malevolent growl from the mist deepened once more, vibrating through her bones. "You'll regret this choice, Jane. You only think you can save them." As the mist thickened and wrapped around her like a shroud, Jane felt fear prick at her spine. The growl grew closer, and she realized this wasn't just a test of resolve. It was a battle for survival, a life-or-death struggle against the darkness that sought to consume everything she held dear. "Billy! Elliot!" she shouted, voice cracking with the weight of her fear and resolve. And then, just like that, everything went dark. Was she about to lose it all to the shadows, or would her determination forge its own path through the terror? That's when a heartbeat echoed nearby, a pounding, familiar rhythm, entwining with her own. The heartbeat pulsed louder, a steady thrum amidst the chaos. Jane's eyes strained against the darkness, searching for its source. For a fleeting moment, hope flickered in her chest. Was it Billy? Was Elliot close? The mist felt heavier around her, as if sensing her rejuvenation and seeking to snuff it out. "Mom, where are you?" Billy's voice emerged, close yet trembling. The shadows jerked, attention drawn, and she felt them shifting, eager to consume whatever light she could muster. "Hold on," Jane shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. She pressed forward, every step a battle against the suffocating dread. The ground beneath her shifted subtly, as if the very earth was alive, groaning under an unseen weight. Then she saw it, a flicker of light, faint and wavering, cutting through the mist. It glowed like a beacon, beckoning her with the promise of safety. Heart racing, she scrambled towards it, lunging through the stifling darkness. "Billy?" Jane called, her voice barely a whisper now. But the heartbeat was louder, echoing, responding, guiding her inadvertently through the fog. She believed, for a moment, that she might find them. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, fragmenting like glass. It wasn't human. It twisted her stomach in knots. Whatever was lurking there was hungry and primal. Jane's instinct screamed to flee, but the love for her son anchored her to that spot. "Billy! Elliot!" she cried again, feet rooted in place. The light flickered violently, and she could see shapes shifting in the mist. They slithered like water serpents, twisting and morphing, their eyes glinting like shards of ice. Steam rose from their forms, pooling around her, suffocating. "Let them go! Let them go!" Jane screamed, charging forward. The ground rumbled beneath her, shaking violently, and she stumbled. As she fell, the flashlight spilling from her pocket rolled to a stop, illuminating an expanse of shadowy figures. Each face was a mask of horror, open mouths wide in silent screams. "Mom!" It was Elliot's voice again, barely a whisper, but it felt like a lifeline. The howl of the shadows intensified, a symphony of despair echoing through the cavern. "Stay strong," she called, desperation sharpening her resolve. The figures recoiled slightly as her voice mingled with the glowing pulse in her chest. They resented it, as if caught in an unseen net that clung to them. And then, her heart sank. The melody of Elliot's voice was fading, twisting painfully. "Mom, they're coming for you. You have to run." No, she wouldn't abandon them. She wouldn't lose them, not now. As the mist thickened and the shadows lunged, she felt something snap inside of her. The light within her flickered again, a flare attempting to ignite amid the dark tide. "Billy! Elliot! Hold on." She refused to let their fear seep into her. With panic fueling her, Jane thrust her hand forward and sent the beam of her flashlight into the depths of the darkness. Bright, blinding light erupted into the cavern of false dawn, defying the suffocating shadows. The shadows writhed, screeching in fury as the light engulfed them, burning against their ethereal forms. But as the glow spread, a new sound emerged. A deep, rumbling laughter echoed from the depths, a low rasp that seeped through the walls of her mind. It felt like hundreds of voices layered together, each one mocking her defiance. "Foolish woman, you think you can save them? This is our domain." The light flickered ominously, revealing darker shapes dancing at the outskirts of the glow. Jane's heart raced, terror closing in like a vice. What had she unleashed? As the laughter grew louder, her resolve wavered, light dimming against the undulating darkness. She was losing control. The shadows began to creep back in, threatening to swallow everything. And then she saw them, the faint outlines of Billy and Elliot, lost yet fighting. "Help us, Mom." But could she withstand this onslaught? Could she trust the light coursing through her, or would it betray her in the final moments? The shadows surged forward, ravenous. "Do you choose to fight or flee?" A voice crooned from the depths, chilling her to the core. Jane hesitated, heart pounding. What would it take to save her boys? With the shadows advancing, she knew this was only the beginning. The shadows lunged again, a dark wave crashing toward Jane, and she felt the pulse of her heart quicken in rhythm with the deep laughter haunting her. The promise of the light flickered dangerously, its warmth warring against the biting cold that crawled around her like a living thing. "Stay back," she screamed, the flashlight wavering as her grip faltered in terror. The beam flickered, oscillating between blinding brightness and terrifying darkness. In those desperate moments, she glimpsed the twisted figures stretching long arms with fingers like jagged claws, reaching for her with an insatiable hunger. "Mom, please." Elliot's voice trembled, breaking her from the grip of fear. His silhouette fought against the darkness, struggling as the shadows curled around him like a serpent. Don't give in. But how could she protect them when their cries wrapped around her like chains? "Together," she shouted, pulling every ounce of strength and courage she had left, willing the light to surge. She hurled herself deeper into the fray, not knowing if she was walking toward salvation or doom. "Billy, Elliot," she pleaded again, feeling the shadows encroach on her sanity. The ground beneath her turned soft, turning from helpful earth to deceptive mire. She fought to keep her footing, her heart pounding louder than the chaos surrounding her. And then the laughter returned, echoing like a tormentor in the dark. "You think this is a battle?" It hissed, the chilling sound entrapping her with its malice. "You're simply a meal for our feast." Look around. The shadows writhed and pulsated, revealing stark glimpses of terrified faces caught within their embrace, lost souls forever trapped in this nightmare. Jane felt bile rise in her throat. None of them could escape. "Mom." Billy's voice rang out again, a gut-wrenching plea that fueled her resolve. "We're in a tunnel. The shadows, they're everywhere." A tunnel? Jane's mind raced with a glimmer of hope. She focused, visualizing a way through the murky depths. "Elliot, stand back to back with Billy," she instructed, feeling them flinch at her confidence, but she pressed on. The flashlight trembled, and she could almost feel its pulse matching the heartbeat of the cavern. "We're getting out of here together." With a sudden surge of will, she flung the flashlight toward the advancing shadows. As it sailed through the air, the beam exploded with light. The illumination expanded like an inferno, momentarily pushing the shadows back and revealing a warped tunnel lined with horrific faces glaringless. But the evil within those walls did not remain dormant. "Foolish woman," the voice crooned again. "You may think you have banished us, but you cannot escape the abyss. We will consume you." Flight response kicked in. Jane's instincts screamed for her to run, to flee from the grinding horror. "Follow me," she commanded, pulling her boys closer as they plunged into the tunnel. As they sprinted, the laughter followed, echoing in shifts, filling the space with despair. Jane's breath came in ragged gasps, the air growing colder with each step deeper into the darkness. The walls felt alive, pulsating around them, threatening to choke her with fear. Then, just ahead, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Something shifted behind the veil of shadows, slithering silently. A creature, grotesque and monstrous, with gleaming teeth and hollow eyes, lingered at the edge of the light. Jane's stomach twisted violently. "Keep running," she yelled, urgency clawing at her voice. Behind her, the whispers rose, rising to a fever pitch as the shadows danced in a frenzy, eager to reclaim their prey. The pounding in her chest reached a deafening crescendo. Distorted faces pressed against the walls, mouths stretched in twisted grimaces, pleading for help, each one a reminder of what awaited them if they failed to escape. But then the walls began to close in. The tunnel spiraled into a tight, choke point, and Jane felt trapped. There was nowhere to go. "What do we do?" she shouted desperately, glancing back at Billy and Elliot, who stood frozen, their eyes wide with terror. "Mom," Elliot cried, panic rising. "We can't be stuck here." As she grappled with her fears, the ground rumbled beneath them. The horror lurked just beyond their sight, waiting, watching. Only one way through. Jane breathed, determination igniting in her veins. With shadows swirling and danger closing, they stood at the brink of a choice. Would they face the monsters in the depths? Or would they be consumed by their darkest fears? The whispers grew louder, promises and threats surrounding them. Choose in the strained silence. Jane clenched her fists. "Together," she shouted one final time, a battle cry that echoed through the confines, intertwining hope with dread. But as the walls seemed to draw tighter, it dawned on her what would it truly take to survive. And right then, in the heartbeat of that chilling moment, everything shifted. The shadows seemed to pulse with every beat of her heart, wrapping around Jane, threatening to consume her whole. But she wouldn't let them. Her boys were counting on her. They couldn't be lost here, not now. The air crackled with tension, every breath she took heavy with uncertainty. "Stay close," she urged, glancing back to see Elliot and Billy's frightened faces. In that fleeting moment, something clicked. She remembered each time she doubted herself, felt unworthy of love or protection. But no more. They had shared so much. Laughter, warmth, the quiet moments of life interlaced with joy and sorrow. Those memories surged within her like the light in her heart, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. "We fight together," she proclaimed, the shadows recoiling as her voice rang strong. The mist swirled angrily, trying to devour her words, but they broke through like sun breaking dawn. Then, a warmth filled the space. Jane lifted her chin, feeling the aura of strength cascading over her. "I choose love. Love that binds us cannot be severed by fear." Her voice grew with confidence, resonating through the cavern as the shadows shrieked. The walls shook as if they were alive, shifting and morphing to the pulse of her declaration. The dark entities slowly slackened their grip, gasping at the light that radiated from her heart. In that moment, Jane saw the figures in the shadows, the lost, the damned, including Elliot and Billy, distorted but visible. "Mom." Their voices were clearer now, untainted by despair. With newfound courage, Jane reached out, connecting with the spectral forms, weaving her essence into their collective struggle. "We're not alone," she shouted, looking deep into their eyes, her love anchoring them. "Together we fight. We all belong in the light." The amalgamation of their spirits ignited the cavern in a bewitching blaze, overwhelming the whispers clawing for her sanity. The shadows recoiled further, revealing cracks in their once impenetrable wall. "No, you cannot escape this," the creature snarled, terror rippling behind its words. But Jane pressed forward, feeling the warmth encompass her, the boys close behind. "You have no power over us," she declared, feeling the shadows tremble. "I choose them. I choose their light over your darkness." At her call, a surge of energy blasted forth, light cascading through the cavern like a tidal wave, scattering the shadows into mist. With a roar, the darkness was pushed back, howling, dissipating into nothingness. Jane sprinted toward her boys, collapsing into their embrace as they tumbled into a vibrant expanse, light flooding in from every direction. They were free. A rush of fresh air filled her lungs, the sweet scent of earth and warmth. They were safe. "Mom," Billy exclaimed, his eyes wide and glistening. "You found us." "I'll always find you," Jane whispered, her heart swelling with the love pouring through them. "It's over," Elliot said, relief washing over him. But even as they stood in their sanctuary, shadows lingered just beyond, waiting for the moment to creep back. That threat remained, but Jane knew that they could face it together in their newfound light. They felt the embers of hope growing stronger. They would rebuild their lives, leaving behind the shadows of the quarry. With every step away from that black maw, the darkness receded. The moon hung high as they emerged into the night, illuminating their path forward with its silver glow. Jane looked at her boys, her heart aching with gratitude and fierce determination. The memories of the lost wouldn't be forgotten. She'd honor them by living fully and fiercely for them. They stood together, facing the horizon, their bond unbreakable. The quarry's horror would not define them. They would weave an unshakable legacy of love. The shadows would find no more victims. "Let us go home," she said, and they walked hand in hand, leaving the past behind, blazing into the future. And as the night embraced them, an unyielding spirit of hope shimmered in the darkness, whispering tales of courage and love that echoed through eternity. Don't let this moment pass you by. If you love this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on our upcoming chilling tales and epic adventures. Click that bell for all notifications. Smash the like button now to support the channel and feed that algorithm. We want you to be part of our story, and flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this ending. Your voices matter. Want to share the thrill? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us build our community together.